Hello and welcome to my very first video here on this channel. Today we're taking a look into one of the basic endgames you have to know if you are a chess player. It's the so-called Lucena position. So, what can we see in this position? We have, as white, we have a rook, and we have a pawn on the 7th row, and what's a little bit bad is that our king is preventing our pawn from promoting into a queen. And now we have to come up with a plan in order to, in fact, promote this pawn and get our king out of the way, however it is. So if you have never seen this position before, please pause the video and think a little bit about this position and come up with a plan how we can secure the win. Alright, now we're talking about the solution, how to win it. So, maybe you thought about a different move, but the correct move in this position is rook d1. We're checking the black king, and black has two options here. It's king e7 and king c6. We're taking a look into both of these moves, starting with king c6. Now, black's aim is to attack the white pawn on b7, and therefore he combines two forces, the king and rook. And now we have a slight problem with white, because we cannot defend the pawn anymore. But is this really a problem, or how can we go on? The correct move in this position as white is king c8. We want to play b8 and promote the pawn into a queen in the next move. But what about rook b7? Well, in this position, we're simply playing rook c1 and we are attacking the king of black. But the king of black is forced to stay with the rook on b7, because if we lose the rook as black, we are completely lost and then it's all over. So king b6 is a must-have move. But now white can make a skewer and win the rook on b7, and afterwards it's just very easy and it takes few moves to checkmate, but this can be done by almost everybody of you. Alright, so now we have proven that king c6 is a bad move, and now we come to the main line, which is king e7. Now, black king is exactly 2 squares away from the pawn on b7. This is a very important detail, and we will soon see why it is. The king is still in front of our pawn, so what we have to do is that we get out of the way and run. Now, we're still trying to promote our pawn, so black has no alternative than checking our king and trying to check all over every move. So the king has to get out of his safe space and be brave. But you see, there's a problem, because we can play king c6, rook c2, king b5, rook b2, but at a certain point the king can't go closer to the rook, because then the pawn is hanging. And now the position is draw. So we have done something wrong. But how can we improve this? Well, in this position, if you could place the rook of white at any square, where would you put it? Well, me personally, I would put the rook on b4, because then my king is protected from the black rook, and my pawn on b7 can promote in the next move, and we can win the game. But now our rook is on d1. So we have to go back again and see if there is any move that can help us to get a better rook position. So think again, where should we place our rook to continue? The correct move in this position is rook d4. And we will see why it is. Black has no alternative than waiting because he cannot improve his position anymore. And now we do the same thing as a few minutes ago. We play king c7, go out of the shadow of the pawn, and there is check, king b6. We get closer to the black rook, and now we have the great move rook b4, and as we have mentioned earlier on, now nothing can stop the b7 pawn from turning into a queen. In the next few moves, Black can exchange rooks, but now, as I mentioned earlier, Black's king is 2 moves away of c7, 2 squares away of the pawn, and now he is too slow to prevent white from getting a queen. If the king of black would have been on d7, he could play king c7 and the game would be a draw. That's why in the very first position, the move rook d1 is so important. So if you just played rook c4, then the position would be a draw in the end if we played the same way, because the black king can stop the white pawn from promoting. Or he can't stop him, but he can take the queen. So it's very important that we remember how to correctly play this position, which is checking in the first and then playing the rook into the center and 2 squares away of the black king, so that in the end the rook can go between the white pawn and the black rook. And if we manage to do that all, the position is won for white and we have accomplished this lesson. Okay, since this is my very first video, please like and subscribe this channel, and we see us in the next video, hopefully. Bye bye.